Brian asked me to do a video on grip, and I was a little hesitant initially to put it on video because two reasons. Number one, I don't consider myself an expert on any level about this kind of stuff. What I do consider myself is a pretty good student and a pretty good coach. So for me, it's aggregating information, bits and pieces of where I've put together my grip over time. The second reason, and of course now I forgot it that I'm talking, is my grip has changed, my understanding of it has changed over time. So I don't really like to put a snapshot on my grip as I understand it now, because I'm always trying to make little tweaks and make improvements. So this is just consider this a snapshot. You should always be learning and growing and trying to make tweaks wherever you can. So that's where we're approaching this video from. As far as production value, this is what you get. My cell phone in my backyard. If you're sticking around for production value, you're going to be pretty disappointed. Let's get into grip from the holster, and this is the only real part of grip that I'm going to approach from the holster. I'm going to drop a lot of names today because, like I told you, for me, grip has been an aggregation of information from a whole bunch of different sources. So I picked this up watching a Mike Seeklander video, and because grip coming out of the holster, obviously coming out of the holster is a huge part of establishing your grip, because you're not just looking for that one shot. You're looking for possibly an array if it's a competition, or multiple shots if it's, you know, a defensive situation. So what he said was very simple. Instead of coming in straight down to the holster, come in on it like a 45-degree angle. So there's like a half moon on that initial draw. So when I come up, it allows me to get much higher on that backstrap. Simple tweak. I believe he attributed it to Max Michel, where he picked it up, but I don't know. I'm going to try and put the video links to all these little pieces that I reference. I'll try to put them in the description so you can go watch the stuff from the source, because I think that's important. So the next person that I'll reference is Frank Proctor, because when I went to his class, we talked about, you know, you hear this, how much percentage of strength should you use, 60-40, 70-70, 100-100, whatever. He gave me a really simple metric for doing this, and it's hold the gun with your right hand, strong hand only. However hard, and fire a couple rounds, however hard you need to hold it for your strong hand only is how hard you should be holding it with your two-hand grip. So that's what I use as a metric. Just fire one-handed, whatever it takes for you to manage the gun reasonably with that, then that should be the strength that you use when you're gripping with two hands. So let's build from the gun backwards. All right. Next person I'll reference is Bob Vogel, because that really influenced how I approach my strong hand grip. And what I like to do is I like to establish a line between the front of the backstrap here and underneath the beaver tail. And I do that by a pinch grip. All right. So really, instead of trying to grab the whole gun like I'm holding a hammer, I'm just pinching into it. And what that does is it drives, I use my middle finger to drive the web of my thumb really high into that backstrap. All right. So that's really the focus of my strong hand grip. And I obviously run the flag of the thumb up kind of high just so I can get my other hand in it. Next, you've probably seen a whole bunch of Ron Avery videos. If you haven't, you really should, because when it comes to recoil management, the next part of my grip came from watching Ron's videos. And that's really a matter of locking the wrist tension. And in order to do that, obviously you don't want wrists cammed to the point that the gun can work against that joint. You want them rolled forward so that you have straight lines. If you've watched any of his videos, he talks about the idea that straight lines are strong. And that's been a staple in martial arts for a long time. You know, in terms of physiology and anatomy, you really, when you start putting angles and things, you're fighting it with muscular strength versus structural strength. So both wrists roll forward, so that left hand rolls forward. What does my left hand do? Let's back up a minute. When I look at a gun and recoil, for me, we've got all this mass coming back. And when that mass comes back, the gun wants to do one thing in your hand. It wants to rotate, right? You're not really going to manage that rotation with friction. And again, this is something I picked up big time in Frank's classes and watching his videos. You're going to really manage that with leverage. So for me, when I look at this, I look at the beaver tail wants to sink into my wrist, into the web of my thumb. So that's why I'm really trying to support that position right there. And at the same time, the front of the back strap is trying to roll forward. So how do I manage that? Well, simultaneously with that pinch grip at the top, I'm then taking my support pinky and applying pressure against the bottom of the strap here. All right, and it's not a pulling down pressure. It's just to maintain that position pressure. So when the gun's cycling, I'm not letting it sink in, I'm not letting it roll forward, and the wrists are locked so the wrists aren't getting broken. So one of my biggest issues when I'm dealing with recoil management and grip is actually my stance. And I just watched a video by Rob Latham about stance, and it's something I'm going to try and work on. I'll put the link in the description. But really what happens with me when I get going at speed, I get steadily pushed back because my balance point's not right. It's one of my biggest issues, and when I look at slow motion video of my recoil management, it's always the gun's working, the gun's tracking great, but I'm steadily getting pushed back over time. And what that does, when you get pushed back, your sights lift, and it requires you to push back forward into the gun. So you end up getting like a seesaw effect. Video yourself when you're shooting at speed, and you'll see it sometimes. So that's really a majority of what I do when I manage the gun. Another thing too, that I picked up in a Dave Harrington class is a lot of people, everyone is so focused about the gun coming back, they forget that there's all this inertia coming forward. So there's really a degree of neutrality in the grip that you need to maintain because the gun's coming back on its own. So any additional pressure too much pressure that you put back into the gun, especially at the wrong time, is just going to make the gun dip down. You're going to have to recover from that. So just let the gun do its job. I don't get too wrapped around the axle about guns shooting flat. What I really like is my guns to track reliably. Muzzles will flip. You'll see videos of guys, and anyone can do this. You'll see videos of guys shooting guns really flat. But the problem is that you have to dedicate so much mental processing power to really keep a gun that flat. When in reality, in a competition or in a defensive situation, there's so much more that you have to take in and worry about that for me, it's really about, let's just get a gun that reliably tracks. The sights will lift and they'll settle. They'll lift and settle. Worry about that. Don't worry about the fact that your gun has to have zero movement up or down. You can see plenty of videos online of people that bought $2,000 and $3,000 guns with all kinds of slide cuts and ridiculous spring systems, and the muzzle still lifts. Muzzles lift. Deal with it. Establish a grip that allows you a degree of reliability, consistency, and just go from there. So that's kind of my story. That's a bunch of pieces of where I've put together my grip over time. Like I said, I'll try to put individual videos that have influenced my shooting over time. And remember, this is just a single glimpse of where I'm at now. It may help you, it may not. You may be way ahead of me, you may not be, I don't know. Just keep experimenting and keep messing around with some stuff, and you'll find a combination that really works for you and is reliable. So I appreciate you watching.